Welcome to On the Move.
And Mr. Worley, again, I just, so that's not overkill, I did at least 2 or 3 times during each trial, I always remind the defendant they have the right to remain silent, cannot be compelled to testify. If you do testify, you'll be cross-examined by the city. If you don't testify, the jury will be instructed that you can't be compelled to testify, and that they can't use your silence, exercise your right to remain silent, or in any way against you.
Yes, sir. I guess so the record's clear to further that a little bit. I've explained to Mr. Worley his rights. I've also explained that this decision to testify is one of only a few that are his to make during litigation as opposed to mine as his attorney. And he gets to decide whether or not he's going to testify. My job is to help him balance whether or not to waive his right to remain silent and testify. We've had lengthy discussions about that. I am very, very confident that he understands what he's waiving by testifying.
Okay. And welcome back. Thank you. Please be seated. The city has rested. Mr. Freeman?
Thank you, Your Honor. And we would call Mr. Worley to testify.
And Mr. Worley, please come forward to testify. You stand behind the chair and raise your right arm. You solemnly swear at word firm your testimony in this cause will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Please be seated. Please state your full name, spell your last name for the record, making sure to speak up for the jury.
Mack Irvin Worley III, Worley.
And Mr. Freeman.
Good morning, Mr. Worley.
Good morning.
We could maybe just go over briefly some of your background and who you are. Where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio.
And how long did you live in Columbus?
Most of my life. I left there when I was 21.
And what year were you born?
1985.
Okay. And so, to help me do the math, you left there in about 2006?
2007, right at the beginning of 2007 for basic training.
And basic training in what?
The Air Force.
And how long were you in the Air Force?
6 years almost.
Where were you stationed in the time that you were in the Air Force?
I initially went to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas for basic training in Security Forces Tech School. And then after that, I was stationed in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
And how long were you in Cheyenne?
I was there most of my enlistment. I left at one point to go to 7-level school back in San Antonio, Texas.
And what's that?
It's basically when you become a non-commissioned officer, you have to get additional training.
Can you kind of outline for us what your duties were as in your time in the Air Force when you were stationed in Cheyenne?
I did several jobs when I was in the Air Force. My first job was did security for nuclear weapons. We have intercontinental ballistic missiles that are stationed throughout the missile complex out there, and I basically did security on those. And then after doing that for about 2 years, I went to the Armory, and I worked as a member inside the Armory. Basically armed up the people who did security, and then I ended up getting promoted to staff sergeant, and they put me as the assistant non-commissioned officer in charge of the largest armory in the Air Force.
You left in 2012, I think you said?
December 28, 2012.
And what were the circumstances of you leaving the Air Force?
I was medically retired.
So you're honorably discharged?
Yes, sir.
What did you do when you left the Air Force?
I moved out here, and I was seeking employment, and then I finally came to the conclusion that I should join the family business. My father, he owns a mulch company in Longview, and I now work for him. I'm doing sales up there.
What brought you to Longview? You grew up in Ohio, spent quite a bit of time in Cheyenne, Wyoming. What brought you to Longview, Washington?
I basically just wanted a place where it didn't snow. I really, after living in Cheyenne for so long, the snow there, it's pretty bad winters, and I wanted some place a little more mild.
And you currently do sales for your father's company?
I do.
And are you married?
I am.
How long have you been married?
It'll be 6 years in October.
What sort of hobbies, what else do you have going on in your life right now?
On the weekends and my free time, I do a podcast, talk radio, and I also operate a YouTube channel.
So if you could explain for people that maybe don't understand what a podcast is, what is a podcast?
It's basically a radio show on the internet, and I I host it, and I do it every Sunday, and we talk about all sorts of issues, constitutional topics, and sometimes we talk about the right to bear arms, and among other things.
And what's the YouTube channel?
It's On the Move, OnTheMoveShow, and that's the channel is basically it's connected to the podcast. So I put my podcast over there, and I have like video commentary, and sometimes I go out to protests that are going on and film it, and sometimes I put stuff on there. It's just like reviews of things.
So, without talking about your YouTube channel specifically at this point, what is a YouTube channel in general?
It's basically like a television channel on the internet. So it's my channel that I basically fill with my own original content, and
your channel is called On the Move?
On the Move Show.
And is the subject matter of On the Move similar to that of your internet podcast?
It's one and the same. They're very much interconnected.
And those subject matters including numerous constitutional issues?
Yes, sir.
What, where did your interest come from in doing the podcast and YouTube channel?
Well, I feel very passionate about constitutional rights and just rights in general. Obviously I swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and I take that oath very seriously.
So the subject matter of your podcast and your YouTube channel, it isn't just specifically Second Amendment rights, correct?
No.
You recall June 29th, 2013?
I do.
And what do you recall about that date?
It was daylight. I went out, and the purpose was to create a video among also asserting my Second Amendment rights, but namely my most important reason for being out there was to educate. I wanted to explain to people that would come up to me first and foremost that what I was doing out there in the first place. Let them know that it's legal to open carry in the state of Washington. And I took a lot of time to research the laws and make sure that I was following them. And the video was going to be used as basically a how-to open carry legally in the state of Washington.
So when we hear you talking on the video, we've heard you're not just talking to yourself, you're intending to talk to an anticipated audience.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my channel has a few hundred subscribers, and I have a couple tens of thousands of views on my YouTube channel.
Let's talk about the weapon that you had with you. What was that?
It was an AR-15.
What does AR stand for?
It stands for Armalite rifle.
What is Armalite?
An Armalite, that's the company that originally made that type of weapon, and they made it back in the 1950s, and they were the first ones to do it, so everybody that was basically knocking it off was putting AR in it, so it's an AR-style weapon.
So this particular weapon that you had been around for 60 plus years?
Yes, sir.
The weapon itself, it's semi-automatic?
Yes, sir.
And what does that mean?
That means when I pull the trigger, one bullet will come out, and if I hold it down, nothing else will happen.
Now, you indicated that some of your time in the Air Force was spent being the manager or the person in charge of the largest armory in the Air Force, right?
Yes, sir.
So is it fair to say you have some experience with firearms?
I have quite a bit of experience with firearms, yes, sir.
What's an assault rifle?
An assault rifle is a weapon that when you pull the trigger, it will do rapid fire or burst fire. So that would mean that more than one bullet will come out if you hold the trigger down.
And was the AR-15 that you had on June 29th, 2013 an assault rifle?
No.
Can you compare the weapon that you had with you on the June 29th with any of the kind of run-of-the-mill garden variety hunting rifles?
Absolutely. With the exception of bolt-action rifles, there's no difference between my semi-automatic rifle than any other semi-automatic weapon.
No difference in functionality?
No. As far as the actual, you pull the trigger one time and one bullet goes. But
how about comparing that with the standard handgun that maybe a police officer may have on his hip?
Those are semi-automatic as well, unless they have revolvers.
Okay. The AR-15 that you had has been testified to could be modified, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that modified into an assault type rifle?
It can be modified to full auto.
And to your knowledge, is that true about other semi-automatic weapons?
Yes, sir.
So the handgun on the hip of an officer can be modified to be fully automatic.
Yes, sir.
And the standard garden variety hunting rifle can be modified to be fully automatic.
A semi-automatic one, yes, sir.
Semi-automatic, fair enough. So there's nothing special or particular about this particular model of rifle that you had that day that made it susceptible to being modified into an assault rifle?
No.
So any perception of this weapon as an assault rifle would be a mistake, correct?
That would be a mistake. It would all be based on cosmetics looks of the weapon itself.
How did you carry the weapon?
I had it slung over my head. The sling was coming down, and the weapon was hung down at my right side, barrel down.
And by barrel down, what exactly do you mean?
That means that the barrel of the weapon was pointed down at the ground. It wasn't pointed up or out, or it wasn't pointed at anyone.
And you heard that the gal from Burgersville testify that she observed the barrel be pointing up. Was that your barrel ever pointing up?
No, sir.
In fact, in the approximate 30 minutes that you were out there, did you ever put your hands on the weapon?
No.
And did you ever put your hands on the trigger?
No, absolutely not.
So you were walking around what area of Vancouver?
It was 164th, and I believe the cross street was 18th Street.
How many people, if you recall, how many people did you encounter while you were walking around?
At least, as far as people that talked to me, I spoke with probably at least a half a dozen, and I crossed paths with, more than a dozen people.
Out of the half dozen people that you spoke with, did any of them appear to be alarmed by your presence?
No.
Did any of them appear to you to be upset by your presence?
Not at all.
Did any of them appear to be uncomfortable by your presence?
Not at all.
And did you find them to be polite or rude, or how were they with you?
I had several very polite conversations with people. I had several, quick, polite exchanges with people. How you doing? Things like that.
And some folks asked you why you're carrying a gun, right?
Yes, sir.
And your explanation to them, did that seem to make them uncomfortable?
No. In fact, one girl that was out there holding the signs for the fireworks display, she actually agreed with me and said, "I agree with you." So,
the people that you came across, I think you said a dozen or so that you didn't actually interact with, did any of them appear to be alarmed?
No.
Did any of them appear to be upset?
No.
And in fact, at one point in the video, we saw a runner coming at you. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
At any point did you observe him to alter his running gait,
No.
change his speed,
No.
and give you a weird look?
No.
You had interaction with Sherilyn Poser at Burgerville, correct?
Yes, sir.
At the time, you didn't know her name, right?
Yes, sir.
In the video, it's clear that you asked her what Burgersville's policy on guns was. Is that right?
That's right.
Why did you ask her that?
I just wanted to make sure that I respected them as far as their policies. If they didn't want me in there, I didn't want to be in there violating their policies.
Your after you left the fireworks stand, let me step back. What was your purpose in going into the fireworks stand?
4th of July was right around the corner, and I just wanted to go check out fireworks. I was going to record the prices and basically play the video back for my wife so that she could see what they had. And my wife's a big fan of 4th of July, so that's her favorite holiday. So we were going to buy some fireworks and celebrate the 4th.
When you left the fireworks stand, you started walking towards a large building across the large parking lot, correct?
Yes, sir.
That you didn't know at the time, or did you know at the time what that was?
No. Actually, when I originally looked over there, I thought it was another fireworks stand or like a big fireworks store. So I headed that way to see if it was, and if it was, I was going to check it out. But it turned out not to be. So.
And when you realized what it was, what did you do?
I turned left. I was going to go back around the block and come back to my car and go home.
And in the video, that's when you start veering left in the parking lot.
Yes, sir.
And was it your intent to get to that sidewalk?
Yes.
And why was it that you decided to veer left and not continue towards Big Al's?
I still had a little bit of daylight left, and I was just going to walk around the block one more time and see if maybe anybody would talk to me and see what I was doing out there.
That's all I have for you right now. Thanks, sir.
Okay.
And Mr. Randall, cross.
I just got a couple questions. You said you were out there to educate.
Yes, sir.
So did you feel yourself threatened at all by anyone?
No.
Um,
Well, with the exception of when
the police arrived.
Yes, sir.
Right. So before the police arrived, and I guess actually the real question would be, when you decided to do the open carry, did you feel threatened by anybody?
No.
So you made the decision to educate.
Yes, sir.
Did you have the magazine inserted into the gun?
I did.
Were the rounds in that gun, in that magazine?
It had ammunition inside the magazine, yes.
How many?
I believe it was 30 rounds.
What caliber?
.223.
Why'd you have the magazine inserted with live ammunition if you were out there educating?
Because I was also asserting my rights.
You were talking about hunting rifles, and there's no versus the AR-15. And again, I understand bolt action or lever action, but just in regards to the semi-automatic, you said there's no functional difference.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that
Oh,
question?
did you testify earlier for the? And I understand again that there's a difference with certain hunting rifles, but for the standard semi-automatic hunting rifle, that compared with the AR-15, the gun you were carrying, you said that the function is essentially the same.
As far as semi-automatic, yes, sir.
What about the form or the look? Is that different between guns?
Obviously, yes. Every model of gun has a different look to it.
And then you were testifying about people that you encountered. Seemed like it was pleasant conversations.
Yes, sir.
Did you talk to Dustin O'Brien on that night?
No.
Did you see Dustin O'Brien that night?
The only time I saw him was after the police had arrived.
Okay. If you could do it over again, would you?
Yeah.
No further questions.
And Mr. Freeman.
I don't have anything further. Thank you.
You may step down.
Am I being detained right now, officer?
Let me see your ID.
No, thank you.
What's that?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, why are you saying no, thank you?
I know it's my Fourth Amendment right. I don't have to show you my identification. Okay, so you're not going to answer me. Okay. What's your badge number?
1382.
And your name?
Devlin.
Kevin. Cheers.
1375.
Name?
Strayer.
You do know that you're required by law to actually give me your name when I
I just
ask.
did.
By really comfortable too. That's one thing I really like about this bag is the comfort level of it. But anyway, so let me move on here and we'll start showing the back here, show the features. First thing first here, we got the front of it.